fourth. But Square One, with 1 minute getting both points, ended up being enough as Gladiators Legion enter this tied 1-1. And when we talk about slow Gladiators Legion, right, we're almost referring to this map, because I'll forever remember it was the first game we ever casted that Gladiators Legion, I think they took like a minute and a half just rotating exactly who was going to approach the corner, and that's definitely been happening less and less. But just like Mayhem Academy at times have some Paintbrush or Revival now, some habits can come back, and it's not happening this time around. Square One did kind of force their hand, and this time around, Tricer getting another pick, so this defense might end up coming out on top, but it has been now Gladiators Legion with a pick onto Angelic, and they're not approaching the point just yet.
Not just yet. They want to size up the situation, not walk into a trap like they did so many times on Anubis, but it is going to be safe for Legion to stand on this court and start racking up those ticks. Jolf has yet to make his way back, and here he is on the high ground, gets booped off. Luddy has been working overtime and displacement.
And so this is still a big fight on it. The objective is 6v6. Now it's a race to those ultimates. Stand One's going to be the first one to it. Big Aldo going to use that rally to try to keep Square One alive here on point A. The charge coming through does land onto Stand One, so he's going to be unable to use that Earth Shatter. So they're Gladiators Legion at bay. Dalton has not used that Graviton Surge yet, so Gladiators Legion do find themselves going back to spawn. They're going to have a really nice fight coming up.
Oh, it's going to be a good one. Even if Dove drops that grab, Rolf and Luddy will both be ready to react. And Dalton himself, nope, not going to have a chance to throw the grab this time.
Oh, self-destruct though, still coming out from Emil. Probably not going to grab anyone at that moment in time. But really, it's the Graviton Surge that we're all waiting for Gladiators Legion. They're just waiting for that opportunity. Everyone doing a really good job at Square One, making sure that if that Graviton Surge goes through, only a couple members get taken. That's exactly what's going to happen. They're going to go ahead and use it inside. Gladiators Legion, though, going to get 2 kills to start things off on the second stage for them. Square One will fall. That's a nice hit to Gladiators Legion. I'm just so happy to see the changes happening here. A lot of what people were seeing from Gladiators Legion in terms of things they need to improve, they're 100% working on it.
Oh, absolutely. A really good placement for that grab as well from Dalton, making it so that Angelic had to put himself at risk in order to find line of sight to sound bury the rest of his teammates. All just really good micro plays from the Legion squad so far. They're going to head into Streets phase well stocked in terms of ultimates as well. Earth Shatter up, you got the rally to buy you a little bit more distance. Square One themselves not really coming up on any tank ultimates.
Probably going to start things off for Square One, and that's going to cause Gladiators Legion to cede a little bit of space. Usually when you see rally in this situation, the team that doesn't have it will just let it go. The armor's a little too strong. You're already at a disadvantage, so let it go. There's 30 seconds. Earth Shatter's going to start things off for Stand One. Jolt's going to be the only one on the ground, and now Transcendence coming in from both sides without the grab, so both teams are going to get free grabs in terms of no Transcendence Eye on the other side. The hot day is down, so Dalton knows that he's got a free opportunity. That grab ain't going to get eaten by no one, and Gladiators Legion going to find more value out of theirs. They won the race to that grab.
Really good chase by Emil. Hot Day got booped actually by Stand One charging back into his team, so he's forced into the cafe, and rather than letting that player go, it's just a diva, Gladiators Legion decide to double down, chase him down, and Emil was able to finish that kill and guarantee that landed grab by Dalton. Gladiators Legion using that halftime to, fill up on Caprice and Granola, whatever they need, because this team is working as one right now.
And so the payload is round in the corner. This is a good opportunity for Square One to pop up another defensive Emil, though. This is the land of amazing Diva bombs. Let's see if it's going to happen. Emil's throwing it up. There isn't a shield just yet, but nice particle barrier to save Jolt's life. The Tri-Spear going to get that initial kill. Stand One and Jolt both using the Earth Shatter. One's better than the other, and that one is for Square One. Knock him 3 onto the ground. Big shatter for Square One. Big hold for them as well. Gladiators Leader going to have 2 minutes, 28 seconds to try again.
I'm curious if the reason that Legion struggled so mightily on Anubis was because Emil's lethality as Diva was largely kept at bay. Remember back in Control, he was the one who had 6 kills in 2 rounds of Control, a big part of why Legion was so successful. Now that he has a little bit more space, more of a linear map to toss those bombs, find those picks, Legion, not doing so badly at all. However, they only have support ultimates coming online. They'd really like, a grab, a shatter of some kind to try and open up this fight.
Square One should be feeling pretty confident about this defense, as Gladiators Legion definitely do not have an offensive capability to come in here. So if they do, they're probably going to have to force some ultimates out of themselves. So Square One, this is a fight that they should not lose. Emil trying to get to that self-destruct and knock the other diva off of the roof. But Jolt getting taken very low. Sound Barrier was used for Gladiators Legion. I don't know how to feel about that. But hey, actually I feel pretty good about it because all of the ultimates are coming back on the line. So this is pretty even in terms of ultimates equation. Dove's going to get taken down. Earthshatter was very nice coming from Gladiators Legion. The bomb not really getting anything as stand one. Is just going to stand still and put that shield up, protect his team. Nice melee kill there from Angelic. This is still anyone's fight. But Gladiators Legion definitely controlled the tempo. But with a pick from Tri-Spear, Square One coming back.
Yeah, Angelic taken down. That means no fast re-engage by Square One, but that's not going to stop Joel, who's picked up the Hammond to try and swing back in here and defend this point B. Hot Date drops back down on the payload in just the nick of time, and against all odds, 0.01 meters. Square One hold.
That is literally the closest you can get. 0.01 meters separated Gladiators Legion and that second point. And there's only 37 seconds left for Gladiators Legion to get those last couple meters. Square One did a really great job of holding their ground, right? They got the picks, and Tri-Spear was in the back line just throwing orbs, and he was uncontested until finally Emil got to him. And by that time, Square One was back before Gladiators Legion was.
Now, while Square One don't really have any tank ultimates to speak of, they can drag this fight long past the mid-game with a Transcendence coming in soon from Tri-Spear. Big Boot coming in. Stand One manages to stay alive.
Hot Date throwing out that self-destruct. Not going to find anyone. Jolt, though, going to get another kill. Square One has come alive in these last two maps, potentially holding Gladiators Legion here before grabbing that second point. Transcendence keeping everyone left alive for Gladiators Legion. This is desperation time for them. There is no Graviton Surge to worry about, as Dalton throwing in those melees, trying to spread around the damage, using that nice tech, but it still has not working. Hot Date, though, getting super low. Dalton in the back line, trying to get him out of the mech, and Luddy's going to be the one that finally is able to get that D-mech going on. Sound Barrier coming on both sides. The one that happens second is probably going to find a little bit more value, so Square One must feel pretty good about that. Stand One unable to knock anyone on the ground, and Square One looking prime to come back on top. No, just like Gladiators Legion fell on their faces on their last attack. Square One is doing it to themselves this time around. They had a member advantage. I was ready to call it, but I was wrong. Gladiators Legion coming in with 3 kills to end that fight. Square One missing a very good opportunity to hold Glads there.
Through that window of opportunity to the wind, and I would like to credit Luddy from Legion for keeping that alive as long as he did. Square One were ganging up on the tanks of Legion, forcing them into that small room, and he booped them away, buying them crucial seconds to heal back up. That play definitely happened off the backs of that Lucio. And now Square One trying to push their advantage. Oh, no. Dalton's already down.
Dalton is down, and he had that grab. There's less than a minute left, so they will get another opportunity, but they have invested Rolls Transcendence already, so the fact that they don't have any support ultimates going into this next potential fight could really hurt Gladiator Legion chances. Dove going down, though, means that Gladiators Legion have some opportunity to stay on this payload, but in my opinion, they should have seeded after that pick, because at this point, they're just feeding charge to Square One, who are catching up in terms of those ultimates.
Yeah, this D-Mech on Emil, Square One going to keep him alive because Legion need time to get him back into mech, and they cannot afford any more. Only 23 seconds left for them to try and attempt to finish Hollywood here, and Hot Day can still buy more time and more space just by throwing his mech out.
Dalton has the Graviton Surge. We're potentially looking at a bigger bang combo. No, not this time. Emil's going to hold it down, potentially saving it for the last couple seconds so he can provide some time to the rest of Gladiators Legion. Maybe they don't know the self-destruct is coming on. Earthshatter not really going to do much down there, though, for Square One. Going to keep them all alive, but not! Jolt, amazing stun coming in from Water, who has definitely fixed his not dying first thing right now. Gladiators Legion still coming out on top. Tri-Spear is going to get bullied away and booped as well. Square One, once again, unable to have this defense, and now we're in overtime.
What an amazing bash from Water. Killing that Reinhardt was the breaking point for Square One in that last fight, and now they have to scramble desperately to try and land a grab for Dove, who has no energy.
Oh, and a bunch of them are taking a ton of damage before they can even make it onto the payload. They do finally get that Graviton Surge up. The charge kill onto Water is going to start things off for Square One, who now have a 5v4 to their advantage, but the D-Max is going to make things interesting if you're a Gladiators Legion fan. This is pretty much even once again, but the spawns are going to be so much better for Square One. Jolt will be here very soon, but they are falling victim to overtime death timers, so every death is so much more impactful. They're going to trade a little bit more there. Dub's going to get the D-Max to end things out for them.
This is all about focus fire now. Transcendence and Tri-Spear are going to buy Square One a little bit more of that crucial healing, give them time to get Big All back into this fight. Water on this Doomfist now going to desperately try and one-man punch his way to a victory here on Hollywood, but he goes down. Tri-Spear again picking up the kills when his team most needed it. What a boom.
Oh my goodness, that boop in at the end. And anyway, the self-destruct just zoned people out. And the crazy thing there is that D.Va, Hot Date, almost got D-Maxed.
Yeah,
He was only at like 80, 85%, raced up to the self-destruct, dropped the mech right in front of the payload, and Gladiators Legion were unable to finish the map. They almost got held so many times, so, props to them for making it to where they were, because I think they won a couple fights that they weren't meant to win in the process, but Square One coming out with that clutch factor at the end, keeping them from completing the map.
Yeah, and a lot of that credit, rests on the shoulders of Tri-Spear. You're the Zenyatta, right? You're trying to toss out those discords, help your tanks focus down your opponents, but while it's so easy to kind of tunnel down into that, mentality, sometimes opportunities will present themselves. You just got to keep your peepers peeled. He took down Stand One single-handedly. He was the finishing blow on that Doomfist. And when the rest of your team is brawling on the cart, trying to keep this defense alive, you need somebody who's going to have that wherewithal to be like, hey, I bet we could find a frag right here.
Oh, okay. And so now Gladiators Legion, you ended on an upward inflection. Gladiators Legion now. Something that we should definitely talk about is Stand One has not been producing like he was on Control.
Mm-hmm.
And we started seeing it slide at the tail end of Anubis, and it hasn't really righted the ship. Stand One, he was in their face in Control, getting huge shatters, and we haven't seen those huge shatters. We have seen huge shatters from Square One, though. Joel, I think, playing just way more consistently and team-oriented right now, and that's really helping them in this round of Hollywood. So now that they're on attack, let's see if they're going to be able to carry that momentum from stopping the Gladiators Legion from completing the map into their attacking phase. And we're finally seeing Sombra. It's so funny because last game we saw Sombra in every map. We didn't see a D.Va at all. This time around, Hot Date's going to be rocking the Sombra, which is the look we haven't seen between these two teams. And Gladiators Legion aggressing upon Square One, and they're going to go right back to spawn. Stand One doing exactly what we said he needed to do, kind of get in their faces, get a little bit about that Moxie back, and he's already under a shatter.
Yep, and get that shatter. Square One, every time you play the Sombra on attack, it is going to be a little bit of a slower game. You're not going to have that D.Va to boop your opponent. You're not going to have that Matrix to gobble up projectiles, allow for your front line to gain a little bit more space. So you do have to play a little bit more patiently, but kudos again to Legion for taking that opportunity, reading the playing field well, and knowing that they can aggress on Square One with, very little confidence. And now they have the Earth Shatter to finish this fight out.
And Stand One asserting that dominance. The Earth Shatter goes through. Big All's going to get pinned. And now it's all about Stand One trying to get back to his team. He is very low. The Particle Barrier is going to help out. Now he's just trying to get some more charge onto that Earth Shatter. Gladiators Legion will be winning out this defense so far, and the reason why we were stopping is just seeing if Hot Date was able to get that pick, because a late pick for the attacking squad is super valuable.
Oh, indeed. The defense needs to run such a long distance to get back to the point that it's well worth it to try and go for that kind of play. Helped him too, peppering in all that damage to get just 10% away from that EMP, which Square One are definitely going to be looking to open this fight up with. Save that Grav, save that Earth Shatter for the future ensuing battles.
Well, they're putting all of their marbles onto this EMP. If this EMP doesn't work for this point, they're going to have to wait for another one, and it's probably going to be less than 30 seconds before they could get another really great, follow-up with those ults, too, because Dove now has that Graviton Surge. Tri-Spear has that Transcendence. We've got a ton of ultimates coming online for Gladiators Legion as Tri-Spear trying to get a nice volley into the rest of Gladiators Legion. Emil getting pretty low. 5 members hacked for Gladiators Legion, but the one person who wasn't was Rolf, but this means that Dove can follow this up with a Graviton Surge, and this should be a nice win for square one, and we're seeing that happen right now. 3 kills for them. That's probably going to be enough.
Yep, 2 grabs, but one of them had a big fatty Rhine shield right in front of it, protecting his team. Joel standing tall upon the payload, hammering pumpkins. What a waste of food, my friend. But hey, you just won the fight. You've earned it. Gladiators Legion now, despite their best efforts and despite that all-important transcendence, we're not able to hold, which means that the next couple of fights on Streets phase gonna look a little bit dicey. You don't want to hang all of your hopes on a single sound barrier. You never know when you're gonna have to pull that out in, an emergency kind of situation. So Gladiators Legion just gonna try to draw some more ults out of square one.
Ooh, Stand One playing hyper aggressive there. The rally potentially saving some members, but not enough for Tri-Spear. Joel taken so very low. Like you said, dicey, just looking at the ultimate charges. And actually, Gladiators Legion aren't even they're probably gonna be able to have another advantage here because of the Graviton Surge, lack of a Transcendence, and Sound Barrier on the other way.
Yeah, this is a good ultimate cycle for Gladiators Legion. Square one now going to be running on fumes in terms of ults. And this is also a very difficult choke to break out of should Legion decide to try and hold here. It's so narrow. All of those flanking routes are extremely predictable, but they're going to actually back off and let Square One get a bit more distance.
Graviton from downtown. Stanley getting that pin is going to be really nice. Water, the only one falling victim to that Earth Shatter. Transcendence coming through. Tri-Spear still has his. He's probably going to save it for the next round of fight. And now that he knows the Graviton on the other side has been used, he can feel a little bit more versatile in the way that he uses it. But these Zaryas can get the Graviton surges so quickly. I'm really interested to see how these supports from Square One are going to utilize their ultimates on this next push.
Exactly. In the past, we've seen Lucio's use Sound Barrier aggressively to initiate fights, but I'm not sure that that would be the right play against Gladiators Legion, who hold the high ground right now. It would be a very long fight whereby, all of the overshields likely are already gone, but no, instead, Square One are going to try and push in.
Self-destruct gets one and gets Anna Angelic, who had used that sound barrier. The reason why we were interested to see is if they were going to wait for potential Gladiators Legion offensive capability, but I think Gladiators Legion forced Square One's hand a little bit with Angelic using that sound barrier. At least they have the Transcendence still at their disposal, especially since Dalton is so close to that grab.
Really interesting route for Square One. They tried to rush through Cafe, it looked like, and Square One, half of them dropped down to Cafe, half of them dropped behind Square One. It was very easy for Emil to land a self-destruct that picked up some kills. So it will be the long route around this time for Square One. The worst thing that you can do is allow for somebody to die before you even get to the cart. That's going to be more time off the clock.
Graviton Surge is going to go right on top of the payload, and Water going to get taken down even during the rally. The Transcendence, I believe, was a little late to save his friend. Water, though, the only casualty so far. The grab coming through the other way. Whipshot going to keep Emil out of this fight just for a little bit longer. Now he's going to be in an isolated position. He's not going to be able to rejoin his team until those boosters are up, and when he does, he's just going to feed a ton of ultimates to the team of Square One. Gladiators Legion are going to have to defend a little bit later.
It's always really interesting to see how these teams deal with those types of situations. Just in the last round, when Hot Day got trapped in that cafe, all of Legion chased him down. But Square One this time around, they decided to focus on the shield battle instead, take Stand One down, who is so incredibly low. So, while we're kind of spitballing here as to what might work out, there are multiple ways to skin a cat.
All right, then. So Square One is going to use that self-destruct, unable to find any kill. Sound Barrier was there in response. Letty does find that kill. And remember, there's only 12 seconds left, so Gladiators Legion already with the 64 means that Square One are most likely going to lose this map. After all of the heroics on that last point, none of it is going to end up mattering because Gladiators Legion have an insurmountable lead in this defensive fight right now. The self-destruct needed to literally get everybody, and that's something you don't see today's day and age, and now it's going to be up to Joel to stall as long as possible.
And that's going to be 0 seconds as the overtime wick burns down. Gladiators Legion.
What a close
pulling
match.
Ahead. Yeah, it was neck and neck. I think up until that Streets phase where you started to maybe feel Square One fatiguing a little bit. They weren't playing quite as crisp as we had come to expect from Anubis.
Well, just like that revival game on Monday, it's actually, I feel like this is like, all right, I'm a runner. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Not really. I'm just using this as a metaphor. I'm a runner and I sign up for a marathon tomorrow. Right? That's kind of like what it's like to play these kinds of games on the very first day,
yep.
Right? You're not used to having comms go this long. The games are going super long between these two teams. We're just now entering our fourth map on our second game. And so the longevity of this game is just not something you're really used to unless you've really practiced this out. And this is where I think experience really comes into play. And Gladiators Legion have been involved in a lot more of these kinds of situations than I think Square One has. So they're able to draw upon a lot more previous experience than Square One can. And I think you could really start seeing that here in the end as some of the pieces, and it's not like it was like a huge difference, right?
Yeah, it's not as though they fell
apart. Some of the screws were loose. Some of the comps have definitely gotten a little lackluster there near the end, assuming, we don't know for sure.
Yeah.
But Gladiators Legion, they did win that map and they won it, even coming back after like a ridiculous hold from Square One.
Indeed. And I mean, we just saw that replay of Square One layering both support ults. And while it doesn't matter in every single fight, those are the kind of just small details where you would hope not to see your teammates slip, because that can be the make or break, especially in as close of a matchup as this one right now. So Square One, though, have dusted themselves off in the past, and we still have one more match to go. Nobody has taken this series as of yet, so Square One still have the potential to take us to a map 5.
Yeah, but first they have to win on Havana, and Gladiators Legion and Square One have played almost every map super close, and so I'm expecting the same thing going into our last escort map. But something that, Gladiators Legion, I believe, has been able to do a little bit better than Square One near the end of this, especially near the end of Square One's attacking phase, is follow up on picks, right? They get a pick and then the rest of the team falls quickly, right? There's not a long skirmish to give Square One more ult charge. It's, it's one and done.
Yep. And that has been, a defining characteristic of veteran teams in the past. I mean, we can see what happens when you're not able to finish off your plate. You end up not finishing out Hollywood. Of course, that didn't matter to Gladiators Legion in the long run, but time to kill has been a major issue for a lot of teams, especially in those Mirror Goats compositions, because you start out those fights very strong, you toss out those big tank ultimates, but if nobody dies, what's plan B, C, D, E, F?
And two things that I think Gladiators Legion have also fixed is stand one, bodying people just a little bit more, playing with a little bit more confidence, and Water has stopped dying first. I think if Water stays alive, I'm probably going to give Legion, the advantage in that fight a little bit more often than not. It's when they're able to take Water out, even though it is just that brig, you do lose that Inspire healing, you do lose some CC, but most importantly,
big part of your front line.
But most importantly, you lose a member of that Goats composition. Yep. And when they've lost Water, they've tended to lose those fights. And not a ton of comebacks when it comes to losing that brig. And so, Square One now needs, I think, to get a little bit more of that magic back.
Exactly, and this might be the key ingredient. A little Ana, a little Sombra in my life, and a close hold. Look at this Square One. Are you playing Rialto? Gladiators Legion getting cooped up in spawn. Emil even gets hacked. This is just, Square One attempting to reassert their dominance here. They do really want to win this first fight without any casualties, and, well, that's not going to be possible anymore.
Well, you saw Jolf just, peace out, right? He charged out, he pieced out, and I don't think that was, on everyone's mind at that point. So he pieced out, he charged away. Gladiators Legion really takes advantage of that. But Hot Date does get close to 60% on that EMP.
Yeah, that's the silver lining right here in this lost fight, because again, EMP is so powerful against even the Ana Goats variant. Rolf right now, 40% up to that nano boost. Not going to be too worried about an incoming angry supercharged Ryan as of right now, but Tri-Spear is going to swap onto the Zenyatta. So Square One have reset the ultimate charge for one of the most impactful supports in the game. And you got to keep that in mind, because Dalton is going to build this grab sooner rather than later.
Ooh, and Big Ol is going to have to run right away, pulling a Jolf there at the beginning of that fight. Just see you later, guys. I got to get some healing. Hot Date so close to that EMP. Stand One, though, going to start out things with this Earth Shatter. 3 members of Square One onto the ground. That's all she wrote for Gladiators Legion. And now Square One going to have to try to hold on the Distillery.
Yeah, this is a bit of a discombobulated defense for Square One. We haven't seen Hot Date run this Sombra very often. I would say his best look is definitely his Diva. And Square One, trying something out, new, but I'm not sure if this is 100% the time to do so because Legion have already banked up such a big ultimate advantage. You need to win, multiple consecutive fights in order to even things back out again. Of course, though, this EMP could be the key.
The EMP is most likely going to be the key as the self-destruct comes in through the backline. Emil going to get 2 kills, and so now the Sombra is actually just in a bad position and is just going to give her life because the EMP was definitely the play there, but they were not expecting Emil in that 2-kill self-destruct. This is definitely closer to what we saw from Legion on Control, the beginning part of Anubis, than what we saw a little earlier on the tail end of Anubis in some of Hollywood.
Yeah, Sombra, anytime you are running her, she must be finding value from those hacks or those EMPs. You're essentially racing your opponents to who's going to pull that trigger first.
He's looking for that EMP. Stand 1 gets taken down immediately. Emil's the other one that's going to get hacked, so that means this Graviton Surge is going to be free for dub if he chooses to use it, but it's going to be hard to press Q when you are asleep. Square One still ahead on this fight. Now that water is gone, that tends to be the death of the Gladiators Legion attack and a defense, so he's going to be coming back. Gladiators Legion will have Earth Shatter and Sound Barrier, I believe, for this next attack.
Not too shabby at all. Square One have largely evened things up, and there we have the swap. Hot Date back on the D.Va. He is just so good at this D.Va. It's hard to argue that he's going to find more value from the Sombra.
Yeah, Graviton Surge coming in from Dub to start things off. The Earth Shatter's going to be huge coming from Gladiators Legion. 3 onto the ground. The Sound Barrier is a little late to keep Dub alive. Gladiators Legion, though, almost losing water. This has been bad news for them in the past, so let's see if Square One are going to be able to take advantage. This is still at 5v5. This is a very defensively focused part of the map. The sleep is not going to land on anybody. Stand One was stunned out just for the time being. Hot Take going to get teamed back. Gladiators Legion going to keep themselves in an advantageous spot for this fight. The grenade, though, also going to be pretty good coming in from Rolf. And now Stand One is out. These fights have been back and forth. Rolf is taken down. There's a little bit more for Square One on the point right now. They're primed to get this defense going. These long, drawn-out fights have actually most likely been so back and forth, just like we're seeing right now. The ults are coming out at the same time, but usually they've been going Square One's way. This time around, Gladiators Legion coming back. This is Hollywood all over again, right? Square One had a couple members. The grab comes in. Gladiators come back. They grab the second point.
Square One having a difficult time right now, making one fight out of their early game advantages. And, Joel, I thought he was dead to rights in the beginning of that fight. He manages to heal up, come back, and even find a pin kill. But even so, Gladiators Legion still managed to out-DPS, out-muscle their way through that shield with a late grab. And now Dove is the one on Sombra for Square One. Not bad to have that EMP, but it's going to be Legion striking first.
EMP goes through. 4-5 members hack for Gladiators Legion. That's going to make this self-destruct way more valuable. Water is out of here. He's gonna drown in a little bit of tears. Square One is going to take this defense, but there's actually quite a bit of time for Legion right now to try to finish this map.
And now that EMP has been expended, Dove going to swap back onto the Zarya. This has really been a case of, musical hero chairs for Square One. And while you do want to play, the best comp that you can, that you're most comfortable with, this has meant that we've had ultimate reset after ultimate reset for our defenders, and they are running out of space to give. The good news is, though, that Gladiators Legion only have this shatter from Stand One, but he has been finding a lot more success with them on Havana than in the past.
It's way easier for the defenses to hold right after that choke, but Angelic going to get that first blood to 65, and you see all of the red cross signs. Gladiators Legion taken so low immediately. Not a ton of ultimates invested for Square One, so this next fight could be one for Gladiators Legion. It's going to be pretty even.
And Square One have the ability to push up as far as they would like, hold Gladiators Legion before this cart. And again, is going to be a battle between that grab and the Transcendence. The one thing that Square One need to remember not to do is layer both the barrier and the trance. You only have one of each, and Gladiators Legion have been charging grab and Earth Shatter like the quickness.
And so Dalton, like you said, only 15% away. He's going to have that Graviton Surge in at no time. Let's see if they are going to layer those ultimates on top of each other. It has happened to Square One a couple times when they get a little ahead of themselves. And Luddy, this is what we were talking about. You go for the boop, and sometimes you get punished. And this means Square One, you're seeing the amp it up. They're going to run into the faces of Gladiators Legion. Stand One, though, gets a huge shatter. This has no right to be happening if you're Square One right now. The shatter hits almost everyone on Square One. Stand One is your hero of your Gladiators Legion right now.
Oh my goodness. You asked me earlier, should Legion run Stand One? And that is an unequivocal yes right now. Contestation from Square One right now pops the sound barrier, but this bomb still finds Pager.
So Hot Day going to try to find one of his own, get some damage on it to Emil. He actually gets the deep neck, and Square One somehow fighting themselves back on this defense. The spawns definitely the advantage there. Two members of Square One now are going to be stunned out. Gladiators Legion definitely not out of this just yet. Now they just have to just beat the spawn. Slutty is going to maybe get focused down. You see Stand One jump into the Graviton Surge to protect the rest of his team, and off the back of Stand One's Earth Shatter, Gladiators Legion are so close to capping this point. They were down 3 members at that moment in a time, and right now they're so close to finishing Havana. This Transcendence, though, is going to keep them all there. Square One are never going to be able to have all 6 members, so they have to find a couple picks in order to keep them in this map. But right now, the stall has been pretty good. Square One, though, still haven't given up this payload. Gladiators Legion need to finish this out.
They are trying to start overtime here, Square One. They know they can't win this outright, but this Hammond not going to be too much longer for this world. Gladiators Legion send a toast up to Stand One. Man alive, single-handedly basically winning that 3rd point for his team. Both of these Lucios getting a little bit over-eager. There was no way, Square One should have had sound barrier for that. Your Lucio should never be, one of the people caught in an Earth Shatter, but that is just how split second, how quick Stand One reacted to the aggression from Square One that even Lucio, your fastest hero on the board, couldn't escape.
It almost looked intentional. He was like, all right, let's lose a couple members. They'll chase us, and they'll, that is literally the definition of tunnel vision if you're Square One, right? Mm-hmm. They're like, if they use the amp it up, they're so ready to just demolish Gladiators Legion. They just didn't think of the Earth Shatter coming through. There was no shield. Almost every member was on the ground. I believe that was a 5-man stat. It could have been a 6-man shatter. And the other impressive thing about that was how Legion reacted to the shatter, right? Because sometimes you use the shatter and like half the team keeps going back. They didn't realize how big it was, but Stand One must have been like, I got this.
Yep, I got this, guys.
Just wait, we got this. Yep.
Don't worry. We still have a 3rd health to give.
Gorgeous.
Whew,
absolutely gorgeous.
That is a textbook case of it's never over until it's over. What are we watching? South American Contenders?
Well, the reason why we like South American Contenders so much is just how much, grit they go into every single fight. And that's a word that we like to use is it ain't over until it's actually over. Those fights last so long, and they don't follow many of like the preconceived notions of fights, but honestly that's what makes it pretty entertaining for me. And that was still even above, it was still controlled, right? Like he knew exactly what was going to happen. Stand One, the man. Holy mackerel. Gladiators Legion now going to start off this defense up close, just like Square One tried to do. Hot Day, it's going to be left alone on the side, just peeking around the corner. Emil's like, oh, there is a Bastion there. Hot Day close to 50% as well. Gladiators Legion definitely falling victim to surprise Bastion.
I mean, I was just saying on Hollywood, you need somebody there on the off angle to pick up the frags, and sometimes it's a Bastion. Hot Day going to swap back onto the Diva for the later fight. Gladiators Legion not going to be too unhappy with getting cheesed right out of spawn. They still have, some pretty good ultimate charge, actually, because, Hot Day was the one primarily doing the damage, building up ultimate charge, and he has swapped heroes. So the playing field is largely even. Legion now trying to force Square One off of the high ground, and they do.
But Hot Date's going to get that pick, so this is still looking good for Square One, who have to finish this map. And we talked about how hard this map is to finish, but they're doing everything correctly right now. They've won the initial 2 fights. They haven't invested a ton of ultimates. Gladiators Legion is still playing catch-up.
Yeah, and they got to catch up soon, though. Square One about to slide this cart right into point A. Transcendence close for Legion. They might want to save that, though, for the later fight. It's definitely not worth it to pop that just to try and contest point A, because you see Dove squatting their big all as well, looking for a vulnerable member to bash.
Tried to bash that, and Reinhardt, the Earth Shatter comes through from Jolp. Not really anything happening because of that. Stand One going to use another Shatter, and at this point, you just got to be absolutely terrified when you think that cooldown might be happening. But this time around, Square One handles it without a problem. Gladiators Legion down 4 members. Square One should be tapping this first point.
Good patient grab from Dove is going to earn Square One this point A, and they're actually making faster time than Legion did on their own attacking phase. But in Distillery on this streets phase of Havana is when things get a little bit more dicey. These catwalks span basically the entirety of this room, so you can attack the low ground at any juncture. And Gladiators Legion do need to keep that in mind. Emil has the potential to lob a naked, unassisted bomb, potentially catch a couple of members.
Yeah, we've seen those naked bombs find a lot of value, especially here in the Distillery section. Luddy, though, going to get that first kill for Gladiators Legion, who are using the rally as well. And they're going to be pushing square one at back. We know that they have some things in the back pocket for this next fight, but the thing about this Distillery is most of these fights happen on the catwalk, and the payload is so accessible from any angle from this catwalk as well. The defenses can really spot where the offense is coming in really at any time.
Exactly, but they might not know that Square One have 4 ultimates here.
Are we going to pull a Vishu here?
Who knows? Might just drop this bomb right off of the edge of this ledge. It's definitely happened before. They're going to try and boop Emil off of the high ground, but that diva ain't budging unless you force her to.
Graviton Surge goes through. Self-destruct going to be coming out first for Square One. No kills just yet, and now Emil's going to throw his self-destruct through. Sound Barrier going to keep some people alive. No kills from these divas just yet as the fight has depleted. Square One is now got a 6v5 because Stand One died with the Earthshatter in hand. Rolf using the Transcendence to try to keep the rest of his team alive, but to no avail. Stand One is still not back, but now there's still a bunch of ultimates for Square One. I like the patience they're showing right now. As Gladiators Legion have given them a little bit more room on the payload. They're actually making a ton of time right now, too.
Exactly. Square One is perfectly happy to dismantle Gladiators Legion piecemeal here now, especially when they realize that there is no big main tank shield to protect those squishies. Gladiators Legion don't manage to escape without taking too many casualties, but they're prime place for grab.
Very, very good Graviton Surge. Nice, calm, cool, and collected. We've seen so many high plays. It's kind of nice to see one that just goes by the book, right? So Dove using that Graviton Surge. There's not going to be enough time for them to hold here at Distillery, so they're going to leave everything up to this last point. We have not, I believe maybe once we've seen over the last 2 days, 2 teams complete Havana. It's very, very hard to do. This third point is even harder, I think, to defend, or to attack. So let's see what Square One has up their sleeve. They have a ton of time.
And that is going to be the bane of Legion's life here because they completed the map with only 5.8 seconds left. So if Square One finish this with over a minute, things are going to look dicey. Dove, though, does not have Grav in hand. But with that loss, Dalton's probably not going to want to drop his oath.
And so Rally goes through. The Earthshatter does land onto Tri-Sphere, but there's going to be no ability for Gladiators Legion to follow that up. The teammate is nice if you're Gladiators Legion, and Emil gets some kills off of the self-destruct. It could be big, but he was stunned out, unable to actually cast the move. But now things are coming back for Gladiators Legion. These picks are really nice for him.
Yeah, never say die. Square One have to focus down, even when there's only a couple squishies left on this cart in order to make distance against this Legion squad. And again, this is like at the start of Havana. 5 check marks for Square One, nearly 6. And Gladiators Legion, while they've been holding on to this grab for quite some time, they've never had the prime opportunity to use it. Now that Dalton's coming back from spawn again, that's going to be in very low charge for this Zarya.
But you can gain that charge pretty quickly. 2 shields is 80 energy, but there's going to be not a ton of energy coming from Gladiators Legion because Hot Day ate that Graviton Surge. The Jolt is taken so low. They haven't used any of the ultimates just yet. They're getting some picks even before that. Now the Graviton Surge comes through. The self-destruct coming from Emil, not going to find any value themselves. The Gladiators Legion are unable to get anything going on this defense so far.
Yeah, Luddy overstaying his welcome in the Square One backline once again, goes down second. And Legion now looking in shambles in terms of that defense. And a quick pause coming through might have a bit of a disconnect, might explain a couple of things. But Square One so far have been beating quite the pace to that third point fortress.
Gladiators Legion on, I know there's been so many amazing things going on in this game. We've definitely been spoiled the last couple days. I cannot believe we're not even technically halfway through this first day, and we've been given so many amazing games. You got the revival game from Monday. Honestly, every game on Monday had its moments, and this time around, Gladiators Legion Square One has been a game of just inches, right? It was 0.01 meters at one point on Hollywood, where Square One could have held on streets, but unfortunately they were unable to do that, and Gladiators Legion ended up winning Hollywood in the end. But now that we're here on Havana, it's really the other side of the story, right? Gladiators Legion just unable to get really 6 members at any given time on any point on Havana so far.
Exactly, and that, while you could have all the grabs in the world, but if you don't have teammates at your back to follow things up, then you're not going to find much value from that ultimate. And Square One, also seeming like they've pulled out their dowsing rods or something. They cut stand one down in the middle of him channeling that Earth Shatter. They're starting to recognize who the biggest threats on the field are. They're not going to be caught unawares with their guard down again.
Yep. And so, I was trying not to say it at the beginning, but now that we're here at this kind of situation, Ping might also be a situation for Gladiators Legion. A lot of their players are not here in North America. They've got a couple in Korea and a couple in Europe. So, in these kind of intense moments, they're functioning with potentially that lag, that ping, and it's not usually an excuse, especially the way that they're playing. But I wanted to bring it up because in these moments where it's all about timing it out perfectly, right?
Yep.
Things might not be working out for them.
Yeah, ping is often a kryptonite for many players. Not so for Trill, as we all know, but he is an outlier for a reason. Gladiators Legion, though, again, never say die. That fortress is a very, concentrated area. Sure, if you manage to get up onto the high ground, you can shell down from all angles. It becomes extremely hard to defend. But if you can funnel the attackers through that choke and hold them right there at the, the Havana portcullis, then you do have a very good opportunity to hold the cart back.
And so while we're waiting for the pause to get unpaused, something that we get to break down is exactly how we got here, right? So let's kind of go over where we are right now. In Control, Gladiators Legion, versus Square One was a little, I think, more one-sided than the rest of the maps. Gladiators Legion were able to take that. On Anubis, it was a 6-5 for Square One, and most of those points happened in under 2 minutes, which was insane. That was an incredibly back-and-forth map, and Square One were able to take that in the end, going into halftime, tied 1-1. And then on Hollywood, Gladiators Legion definitely in control for the majority of it. Square One had 2 opportunities, I believe, to hold on streets once and on third a second time, a little bit before they ended up holding them right before the end, but it wouldn't have mattered because on Gladiators Legion's defense, Square One was held on streets phase. And so now that we're here on Havana, Legion worked really hard to try to get to the end of Havana. They also, I believe, had about 3 minutes, a little bit more, on the last point on third, and they ended with 5 seconds left because it's so hard. It's kind of like on Assault, right? Those spawns are so close to that payload. You've got to get clean fights. So in terms of where you think a defining moment might be, it could be exactly where we stopped, where Square One is so close to capturing the point. We have a pause, but whatever happens after this could define the rest of the series.
Oh, undoubtedly. 5 ultimates, if I remember correctly. So if you're, playing very disciplined, you're going to be cycling those ultimates. If Square One used 1-2 ults to finish out that bridge fight, you still got, bank to finish the entire map. And Gladiators Legion, unfortunately, don't have that same luxury to dole out ultimates as they see fit. They need to play a very, both proactive and reactive, right? And that can drain your ultimate bank in just a couple of seconds. You throw out your ultimate, gets gobbled up. Hot Date's certainly done it before in the past, right? Then you have to desperation, maybe drop that sound barrier to keep everybody just sustained through that mid fight. And in the meantime, Square One still have, 3 check marks left in their back pocket. So this next fight is going to be, a very key defining moment for what happens in the rest of Havana.
This isn't in the bag for Square One, though. We've seen, in many series past, 6 ultimates not win you a fight before. You can have 1 pick or just 2 picks. If they're unable to start this fight with 6 people, the numbers advantage might be all you need if you're on that defensive side because your spawns are coming so quickly. They're in no way, shape, or form vulnerable to overtime spawns, which do take a little bit longer because there still is quite a bit of time for Square One. But if Square One get held here, Gladiators Legion are going to be feeling really good about their possibility potentially winning this map.
Yeah, for sure. And when I talk about, having those 5 ultimates, having such a well-stocked ultimate pantry, that's if everything else goes perfectly, right? And that's something that you can never guarantee in a game of Overwatch, right? You might accidentally layer support ultimates, you might just jolt it and miss a charge and end up in the enemy backline. That's always possible. And so, it really is still up in the air despite the advantage on paper for Square One. I mean, I'm actually kind of curious, Boop, because we've, grown to know these two teams over the last season of Contenders. Who's kind of standing out to you in terms of, contributing to these teams, getting them their wins and their defenses?
So in terms of these two teams right now, because of this series, it's really been everyone I feel like has had an opportunity to be that person. It's been Jolf with some shatters. It's been Stand One with that shatter on Havana we just saw, right? That was amazing to see. And it was Dove who gets disconnected. He's going to lose his ultimate because of that.
No.
That's a really big deal. But Big All is actually going to start things off with a pick. This could be it for Square One. Dove still needs to come back. Another pick onto Stand One means the Gladiators Legion only functioning with 4 members. But Hot Date taken very low. Did they get that D-Mech? Yes, they did. Dalton, though, unable to get to that Graviton Surge. This is looking like a Square One take if I've ever seen it. Rolf and Water going to get booped away. Round 2 is complete. Square One have way more time in the bank than Gladiators Legion, but if we learned anything from Anubis, it doesn't matter how much time in the bank you got if you're able to finish the map anyway.
Exactly. Clutch factors have worked wonders for Legion so far, and they definitely have that grit, that perseverance in them. So Square One going to be feeling really good despite that disconnect. Gladiators Legion still, left going back to the next round with their hands empty. Really unfortunate here. But they get to attack, and who knows, we may see some Bastion. This is when, those kinds of strats start to really
We saw it on Anubis, right?
Yeah.
With the Pharah and the triple DPS.
It starts to really gain some traction because when you're working with very, very small amounts of time, any kill is a good kill, no matter how you get it, right? You could work up to a grav, but if you only have 10 seconds left to use it, you only have one good fight. So Gladiators Legion doesn't look like they're going to be putting all of their eggs in the Omnic basket. Rolf is going to take a cheeky shot out of spawn. You never quite know.
He's probably looking to see if they have a Bastion as well, which will affect their team composition coming out of spawn. They only have 1 minute, but we've seen these payloads move forever, even if they have just a minute left. And so Gladiators need to make some progress here on their attack. If Square One are able to win this up-close defense, it's pretty much Square One got this in at the bag. So let's see. These up-close defenses have not worked a single time so far in Contenders, but it might be this time around. And this is the kind of series where I could definitely see it happening as Jolf getting taken below half health already. The Harmony Orb is on him. And so Gladiators Legion building up to those ultimates. Dove already lagging behind on Dalton in Square One, ceding that space already. If they get some nice stagger kicks here, Gladiators Legion could actually get a ton of distance, but we're not seeing that just yet. But no! Square One loses Big All. They're probably going to lose Jolf as well. So this is going to be really good news for Gladiators Legion, who do need to make up some time. If they win this next fight, this really is anyone's game.
Of all the times for Big All to be the brig that falls
It
first,
hasn't happened at
ever.
all.
But today is the day, and Legion are going to take this opportunity and run with it. Only 10% away from the grab is Dalton. This will be an overtime brawl. So any respawns coming back in will be delayed for Square One. They need to keep this in mind. Gotta play it cautiously, yet try and work up to their own ultimates as quickly as possible because Legion have 3.
Ooh. Square One really needed to eat that grab, but no, Tri-Spear gets the pick onto Water, but there's a return pick on it too. Jolf and a huge shatter coming in from Stand One. He's the man you want on your team in this exact situation. That's the second time that has happened on this map. Huge shatter in the industry.
We call that
a fatty shatty. So Stand One gets his fatty shatty of Contenders on day 1. His second one, really, it's Square One are gonna give up this point. 4 points for Gladiators Legion, and now we're in overtime, so any kill here for Square One could end this push, but everyone has to stay on the payload.
Exactly. This is the difficult dance, the difficult overtime dance. The good news is, though, in that time, Square One has worked up to the trance and the sound barrier. Dove still edging ever closer to that grab, but there's no prize for most improved. Square One needs some ultimates. They need those kills, that clean team fight that wipes right now.
Well, the interesting here is the geometry is not going to really help Gladiators Legion because they have to keep someone on the payload, so they can't really get a 66 here. As Letty in the back lane trying to boot some people off. Dove is on the low ground. He is isolated right now. Hot Day almost gets the mech, misses the shield. So if they're able to take him down out of this mech, that could be huge for them. Self-destruct not getting anything. Hot Day loses the shield, 1% away from that self-destruct. Gladiators Legion still in control of this fight, Ham.
Oh, Square One needs to give space, but they're trying to double down here. This is massive. Stand One is down. No more Earth Shatter online. And the support ultimate already depleted. No more shield for Hot Day. Goes down. He had the all-important stalling self-destruct. However, water does fall. This has been neck and neck. Both of these teams trading equally 1-for-1.
Yeah, Gladiators Legion will have their Reinhardt back in at no time. They're just going to stall it out just a little bit longer. We still are in overtime, and the way that the Wick will move is super fast. They have to keep people on the payload. Stand One is back. Rolf is 15 away from Transcendence. That could be a game changer for them because Dove is so close to that grab. This is a race for Gladiators Legion. Self-destruct is out. That's going to keep them away from the payload, but no one goes down. And then the Transcendence comes in, keeping everyone alive. Stand One getting his counterpart Jolf on the other side. This is a 65 Gladiators Legion. This is such a long, drawn-out fight, and it's still not over.
Angelic actually doubles down. He throws in the beat, despite the fact that Jolf is no longer here. Square One, he thought that they could win it out, but the Transcend is not going to do anything but lighting up this distillery. Gladiators Legion against all odds.
They let Stand One come back. Square One allowed the Reinhardt to come back into the fight. He got a couple kills, and now he's so close to another Earth Shatter. Looking at Square One, they're at a disadvantage in terms of those ultimates. Hot Date unable to get a nice self-destruct because he was CC'd forever. And now Gladiators Legion so close to capturing a second point here on Havana. Remember, this is hard to do if you're on the attacking side. And so now Square One on the high ground trying to push them off the payload. Emil is going to get that self-destruct, but Luddy unable to save Rolf with that sound. There are some good boops coming in from Luddy. Look at where Jolf is. He gets booped potentially back into to save a little bit more members from Square One, but Gladiators Legion are looking like they're gonna get a 5th point. They just gotta clean it up.
Oh, that shatter from Stand One corralled all of Square One onto the staircase. There's nothing that they could do about that cart.
Wow.
Angelic ends up sacrificing his life to try and stall things out just a little bit longer to allow his tanks to get back into the fight, but that's not what happened. And now Square One, still in overtime, must again defend this 3rd point. They were not successful the last time around, but this time they have Grav, they have Trans. Gladiators Legion, they've been running on a hope and a prayer, but it's been working.
And so 96% for Dalton. He is going to have this Graviton Surge, but there's really not a ton to follow it up. If they're able to get a couple more picks, Square One might be waiting a little bit longer to stop Gladiators Legion on this attacking side. Dalton's going to throw his grab out first. The Transcendence is there from Tri-Spear. The charge from Stand One, keeping Hot Day away from the rest of his team. That was a missed opportunity potentially to get him out of that mech. Rally's coming both ways. Transcendence now going to keep Water alive. He was able to get to that Transcendence before. Dalton came through, and now 2 kills coming in from Hot Day, but he's unable to get back into the mech. He is taken back to spawn. 5 members for Square One. 3 now for Gladiators Legion. This might be the end of that miracle run here on Havana. If you're Gladiators Legion, you gotta calm down after this, right? If you're coming in, going on defense, because like I said, if you're able to do it, so is your opponent, but you just pulled something off that's so hard to do. 2 points in overtime for Gladiators Legion. Wow.
Miracle on Havana Street right now. He didn't just walk up with that "how you doing." Gladiators Legion came in here with some grit. We keep saying it, but again, to keep all of your wits about you in that overtime crunch, right? Ultimate tracking starts going out the window once you can't even tell, who's dying, who's still on the point, who's still touching the cart, right? There's so many things to keep track of, but Gladiators Legion managed to keep everybody in line. Everybody's still on the same page. We're going to keep pushing this. We're keep going. Not going to let, the small little bits of that GOAT's discipline fall to the wayside. And Square One, to their credit, they made things extremely interesting, but they were, again, not prepared for what Gladiators Legion brought in that streets phase.
5 points for Gladiators Legion. That feels almost insurmountable, but the way that this series has gone from beginning to end, I could totally see Square One making it to exactly where Gladiators Legion were, because
they have over twice the time.
Both of these teams are catching their momentum at different places, and so one seems to be better than the other. It's not really happening at the same time. That's why we're getting these super high scores. Remember, 6-5 on Anubis a little earlier today. Feels like yesterday at this point, as Gladiators Legion choosing to hold up close once again. Let's see how effective they're going to be. Jolf taken pretty low. They're really trying to get to those ultimates before Square One. There is 2 minutes and 19 seconds for them, but right now, Legion actually holding strong.
We're not seeing those health bars yo-yo the way that they did when Square One chose to hold this far, but Water, first man down, followed shortly, though, by Jolf. So Gladiators Legion have largely evened up that man disadvantage.
So something that's so valuable in these pushes is time, and what Gladiators Legion has done is they kept the payload here longer than most people do in this initial defensive push, and actually they're still not even that far behind in terms of ultimates. They're going to feel good about what they just did. They took almost a minute off of the clock on this up-close defense, so they're going to have to do this one more time, Square One is, and they don't have like an immense ultimate advantage either.
No, it's really neck and neck, especially if you take a look at that all-important grab charge. However, there will be a slight advantage for Legion. They can position themselves and should try and accept whatever Legion throw their way. They've already camped up on this high ground, 7 seconds away for grab for Dog.
I love to see this aggressiveness from Gladiators Legion. They're going to get their gravitons very, very shortly. Big All is using that rally already, so they're not going to have that extra defensive power. And for Square One, Sam One using that Earth Shatter. Big All's going to be the one on the ground. No charge opportunities. He's been well protected, and now the graviton surge coming in through from Square One. The charge really not going to do much for them either, as the Transcendence keeping everyone alive. They've actually Square One off the payload so far. Letting in Water on the ground. Dove getting in the first pick, but there's 53 seconds left for Square One. They have yet to capture this first point. Soundbarrier going to keep everyone alive. That's a huge investment in this kind of situation, because they still have so much longer to go. And so now Gladiators Legion going to be coming back onto this point very shortly. But now Dove is going to try to jump out of the way by grenading himself, but takes his own life in the meantime. That could be the death sentence for Square One's push right now.
This is disastrous for Square One. That was massive. Tri-Spear through the trance, and he thought that he could save his team. I mean, so many times Square One have been able to pull these kinds of fight out from their back pockets just by using a support ultimate, but this time around they had absolutely no damage, and now they have no ultimates either. Gladiators Legion, 4 check marks. They could just sit here comfortably and defend this cart till the cows come home.
They want Square One to come to them. The Graviton Surge is going to start things off. Jolf is going to get a nice stun onto Stand One, who's going to need the sound barrier to stay alive, so this ultimate advantage is depleting little by little, but so are Square One and their lives. Gladiators Legion in overtime. Emil's not going to get that self-destruct, but Square One are destructing themselves. They're going back to spawn, and we're going to keep thinking of Dove using that grenade to kill himself, and Tri-Spear using that Transcendence, but not finding value. Gladiators Legion win a thrilling, we were standing up, guys, win a thrilling Havana, and that's only the second game of today.
Oh boy, I would absolutely stay tuned. I am so excited. Just in these 2 days of North American Contenders, we have seen some absolute barn burners of matches. And again, with the parity, last season it was all about, NA East, the parity, or NA West rather, the parity was so close. The middle of the pack was really beefy, anybody's game. But this time around, both regions, and despite the incredible record-breaking number of trials teams that are currently competing, the level of play has overall just ratcheted up to such a place where you could barely tell the difference.
Yeah, what a thrilling series we just saw. Square One and Gladiators Legion are going to be factors for the rest of the season. I'm sure of it at this time. That is going to be a brutal one to take, though. If you're Square One, you were so close, and just, those small mistakes happening at the absolute worst time ended up killing them in the end. But you have to give props for Gladiators Legion getting 5 points with a minute on the clock on Havana of all maps. But remember, that's only the half of the games for today. We got 2 more. The next one coming up is going to be Atlanta Academy and Phase 2. That's going to be it for us. Ham and Boop, Avast and ZP will be coming up next for the rest of the day, and we'll see you very soon.